UPcycled4Food initiative. I will share my screen with you to also support our introduction with some slides, which will happen right now. Yes, I hope you can all see my screen right now. It takes some time. I see at the screen of my colleagues. Not yet.
No, we do not.
Oh, it takes a long time. Yeah, does it work? Okay, good. Loading. Yes, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us in this UPcycled4Food join-in session for the bakery, confectionery and snacks product category. We're happy to share a lot of insights with you, but also validate a lot of insights with you around this initiative. In order to have a good start, we would first like to introduce ourselves to you. Next, we will also have an introduction round with all of you via our digital tool Mural. And next, we will share a bit more about this initiative, because for various of you, this is a new initiative. And we will also then, step by step, gather feedback from you and have some interaction with you about what your priorities and interests are in relation to this initiative. And then we will close with next steps and how you can be involved in this initiative in the future. First of all, welcome from our team. My name is Caroline Duivenvoorde. I'm Program Manager Circular Agri-Food within Food Valley. Here around the table, also 2 colleagues, and online 1 colleague who also would like to introduce themselves.
Yes, thank you. My name is Jorien. I am project coordinator for the upcycling community. And specifically during this session, I will support with all the online tools, especially also Mural. If there are any questions, if you have doubts about how it works, please reach out, put a message in the chat. I will make sure that we will help you along the way.
Martina, could you maybe also introduce yourself?
Yes, of course. My name is Martine, and I'm responsible for marketing and communication within upcycling.
Thank you. Great you're there. And of course, Miriam.
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm Miriam, a project manager here at Food Valley, working on different initiatives around the topic of upcycling. One of them is, of course, the UPcycled4Food initiative. And with that, I'd like to also give you all the opportunity to introduce yourself in the Mural. Mural is a digital tool, as Caroline already mentioned. And thanks, Jorien. Yeah, my colleague just shared the link to Mural with you all in the chat. So please click on this link. And you can also see on the slide that Caroline is still sharing some instructions there. One good thing to note is that you can enter as a visitor, so no need to log in or create any account. Just use that option that you see below that says enter as a visitor. That's just the easiest way to join. And once you're there, we'll take a step further, but we'll just take now, or we'll just give everyone some time to join the Mural, and then we can take the next steps there.
Another recommendation is to also use your laptop as a device, because with mobile phone it will be more difficult to see the details that we will later on share with you. I will stop sharing my screen, and then we will switch to the Mural environment.
Yeah. And indeed, when you enter as a visitor, you also have an option to indicate your name. feel free to do so. I see already quite some participants in the mural. That's really nice.
For all people joining right now, the link to mural is in the chat. And we are doing an introduction round, so you can just enter as visitor. Please use your laptop as a device, and there you can add your name, company name, and role. And that's how we collect all our participants' names, and also for you to see who else is there in this initiative call. So for the new joiners, please use the link in the chat to Mural. There you can join as visitor. Please use your laptop as a device and use the prepared post-its to add your name, company name, and role. It's nice to see the names going all over the place. Oh, question to share the link in the chat again. We will. Thanks, Jorien. And since we are with so many of us, we will do this in a digital way, of course, and that's something we will explain later. We hope that there will be in the near future an opportunity that we can meet or another way have more interaction with each other. But today it will all be digital. So we're happy that you're familiar or that you're using the tool in an intuitive way. Good to see that. We can support you, Hans, to add a logo for you to the mural boards. Yes, a little side note for those who joined later. We're in Mural. We are doing an introduction round. So the first thing that we do is adding our name, company name, and role. And I think we are almost there. See a lot of filled cards, filled post-its. Super valuable, thank you. We will go back to this place later on. Now we will first have a bit more of background before we dive into the further feedback rounds that we will do through Mural. Because many of you are also new to this initiative, we would like to give you a bit more of context about what has been done before and also, of course, what the goals and objectives are. I hope you can all see the shared screen again. Yes, great. So a bit more about this initiative. The UPcycled4Food initiative comes from the position paper on upcycled food and ingredients. You see a small QR code in the left corner of this slide. This paper was once developed in collaboration with 50 plus experts. Actually, also a major share of those experts came from our upcycling community. And in that time was made because the market for upcycled food and ingredients was all new in Europe. And we needed to align a lot around definitions, but also ambitions and collaboration. And it also supported the community partners, and we hope also a wider ecosystem to share knowledge, to also align messages and language, and also to, of course, support international collaboration. One of the priorities that came from this position paper to work on and to collaborate on was actually, it's a bit slow on my side, slides. Yes, the markets. So the market landscape was developing. We saw a lot of technological solutions entering the market, also a lot of ingredients being ready to incorporate in end products. But what we understood also from our partners in the upcycling community, there was still a lot of work to do, a lot of challenges around the value propositions around upcycled food and ingredients, due to use of different side streams, due to different functionalities of all those ingredients, due to also different perspectives of all solution providers. We saw that there was a super diverse landscape of products entering the market, which made it quite difficult. That's what we understood from the retailers and food service organizations, to understand what the true value of those ingredients and products was. So we said, okay, that's typically something we need to collaborate on along the whole value chain. And also it's really important that we are going to support any value proposition around upcycled food and ingredients. So for example, whether it's more healthy or whether it's more sustainable or whether it's also cost effective, with independently verified assessments that can be used by all and are not exclusively connected to one specific organization or solution. So that's how also this initiative, UPcycled4Food, started. We worked on a plan together with various of our partners to determine what was needed. So we said it's important that we work on that the end goal is that we achieve value chain-wide alignment on the impact of upcycled ingredients for a mainstream market. So there are a lot of different ingredients and products entering the market, but if we really want to drive the market, we should focus on those products that are mainstream, and that there are also various suppliers linked to those solutions that we focus on, so that they can associate themselves with those products that we identify. And also that in the end, of course, those value propositions relate to objectives and interests of retailers and food service organizations, because upcycling on itself is not a goal per definition for off-takers. So with those key elements, goals around this initiative, we started to work on the how. And we said we actually need 3 different phases to build, first of all, a consortium of various partners collaborating around those products. We should also make it product category specific, because it's difficult to compare the value proposition, for example, for a cookie with a value proposition for a meat alternative. So we said we need to identify those product categories that are most important. That's something that we did already last year with those supporting partners that were already involved. And now we had in June already 2 consortia around the key product categories, namely bakery, confectionery, snacks, the joining session that you're now part of, and meat and dairy alternatives, including blended or hybrid products. That's the other product category. And there's also a whole consortium formed around this product category. And in November last year, we gathered for the first time on location, but also online with our various international partners to discuss what are those products that are linked to significant sales volumes in the market, and also those products that are linked to good upcycling solutions. We also identified related value propositions, and we also checked those with the perspective of retailers and food service companies. We will today, that's part of the open review of benchmarks action that you can see on screen, check that with even a broader consortium, all our new actors, you that join us today, which actually strengthen the assumptions and the decisions that we took in November, which are a starting point for us to work on phase 2, together with all of you, to make independent impact assessments. And there we will also involve third-party experts like LCA agencies, food technology experts, but also experts who can do economic feasibility assessments. So there we will really work on those products and those value propositions that are valuable for all, but will be supported with independent assessments. And the whole idea is that in the end, those assessments will help the wider ecosystem to have a good and faster conversation about what those benefits of upcycled ingredients and food products are, or also the downsides of it, to have clear understanding from both sides of the table, the off-taker and the supplier, what to focus on, and also for a retail and food service organization to formulate their demands in relation to upcycled food and ingredients in a more strategic way, to see where the true gains are to be achieved.
There's a question in the chat from Sebastian asking if PFCR are used in the impact assessments.
It's, PFCR stands for Product Environmental Footprint Declarations, guidelines being developed in Brussels. We know that they are there for other product categories like feed or beer or meat, or more the primary sector related sectors. We will definitely also work with agencies, experts who are really familiar with the PFCR guidelines, to make sure that also in relation to upcycling and food, so not feed but food, that the right assumptions are taken into consideration, and that we maybe even can move this in the good directions in a more political landscape. That would be really a nice side effect of our initiative. So yes, we are aware of that, and we will definitely take that into consideration by collaborating with the right experts. We will make sure that this will be covered. Thanks for the question.
And we have a second question from Joseline asking if you could please define what we mean with upcycled in this case, for alignment.
Very good point. In the case of our initiative, upcycling is focused on, in how we see it, the highest destination from the food hierarchy pyramid, where you see that a supplier of a specific raw material side stream first had a lower destination than food. So for example, feed, biofuels, pet food, cosmetics, they are all at a different stage at the food hierarchy pyramid. But we think that the ultimate step is then human food. And if you can prove that your supplier previously sold that stream to a non-food destination and now is making that step to human food, then we determine that this is an upcycling step.
So indeed, for a second question, that does include byproducts.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. So a good example is, for example, it's a classic one, I think, in this field, the brewer's spent grains, but also the starch of potatoes, or the peels of fruits, and so on. Various type of side streams and byproducts. Please feel free to also contact us or put other questions in the chat. Today we want to validate actually the prioritized products with you. So we want to make the next step in this sharing of context with you. First, it's good to know, in addition to what we did in the introduction round, with whom you are together. Here you see an overview of different companies already being involved during consortia meetings, which are in the circles. So on the left-hand side, the blue circle represents all actors that were involved in the bakery, confectionery, snacks category. and the right green circle, it's the meat and dairy alternatives, including blended and hybrid category. And of course, today you see all additional companies that join us, also those who are active in both categories. So will also join us next Thursday. Welcome all, of course. And it's good to see that we also have some enabling partners, which will be involved later on in a broader expansion of our initiative and in a checkpoint meeting that we will announce later on. Now it's time to go to the different steps that we also followed during the consortium meetings, but because we will kind of rehearse this process, but then in a more accelerated version. In the November session, we filled, how we called it, an upcycled toolbox. So all the partners involved added the ingredients or the end products based on upcycled ingredients that they know or that they own or produce themselves. Then we started to, based on the product category and predefined product types on our side, define what would be those product types that are important for our initiatives based on upcycling potential and sales volumes of the conventional products. And next, we dove into the needs and ambitions of the market, actually, represented, of course, by retailers and food service companies, but also food manufacturers who know a lot about the needs and ambitions, and of course also the ingredient producers who have a lot of conversations with the off-takers. So this was based on the prioritized product types. And then we started to do a kind of backwards designing. So we knew those are the important product types. Those are the key needs and ambitions. For example, a healthy cookie. And then we started to backwards design, okay, what are the key conventional ingredients in a cookie? How can we make them, for example, more healthy with upcycled ingredients in our upcycling toolbox? That's what we did. And today it's about validating those outcomes with you. So we're happy to hear, do you recognize those priorities? Do you recognize those needs and ambitions? Do you have additional thoughts about it, and maybe also additional ingredients or products that we should take into consideration? It's all open to contribute and to add to that. This is just to give you an impression of how that looked, but we later on in Mural will, it's not readable, we will then dive into it in detail. So we had the ingredients matrix. This is the product matrix based on the different product types and also different value propositions that they represent. And then we, in the consortium meetings, identified the top 5 product types based on their upcycling potential and based on their sales volume potential. And it's interesting to see the difference based on the different questions. So for upcycling potential, you see that cookies and biscuits is really number 1 in terms of the different type of ingredients that are suitable to replace conventional ingredients with. Also, you see that same for savory bakes. There were also a lot of opportunities mentioned to replace conventional ingredients for upcycled ingredients. But if you then look at our ambition to make this transition mainstream and to also guide retailers, food service companies to see what's important for them and where they really could make the change, you see suddenly that bread rolls is instead of on number 5, on number 1. There are the mainstream volumes in terms of mass, not in terms of prices. But it's good to realize there's where we can make the true impact, and also still cookies and biscuits rank high. So our final ranking resulted in a number 1, cookies and biscuits, the savory bakes, and the bread and rolls. We will dive into this in detail also in Mural again, and we do a re-voting. But just to make you a bit familiar with the 3rd step, this is an example of what we did for the cookies and biscuits. So we asked around the group with the different perspectives from ingredient producer, fruit manufacturer to retail food service company, what are those value propositions of a conventional cookie that are important to you from a B2B perspective. And there we got different perspectives, different for food service versus retailers. For food service, stories were also important. The taste and health are super important. From a retail perspective, taste and health were also mentioned, but there, of course, also price competitiveness was mentioned because of the very traditional consumer, and also the cost price of the product. We will dive into this in more detail later on. And then we have, as a last example, how we started to formulate the conventional recipe and tried to link that to upcycled ingredients that could replace those traditional ingredients. This is something we will also do with you. And the idea is that we identify the most feasible upcycling strategies. It's time now to actually do the same with this group. The 4 steps. Maybe Mural is still on your screen. If not, please use the QR code, enter as a visitor. And for this exercise, it's especially relevant to have your laptop as a device because it will be more detailed. And then we will see you there to go through the 4 steps. I will stop sharing and then Miriam takes over. Yes,
I can
you
see your
did.
screen already.
Yeah,
Perfect.
great.
Yeah, so if everyone's back in the mural, so that's where we were. If you can all see my screen, we were there with all the post-its, seeing this really nice diversity of participants we have with us today. And we'll now take a little slide to the right, where you can see those matrices that Caroline was mentioning earlier. In there, you already see all the products and ingredients that were actually collected during the consortium meetings that Caroline mentioned that we hosted in November. And I actually see already some people added a few more ingredients and products today already. I'll just share some instructions on how all of you can do that. You can also see that on the right-hand side in this little box. But basically, the idea is to add in those matrices, so on the top, any ingredient, and on the bottom, any product, either that you produce or that you source or that you sell, depending on your role in the value chain. So feel free to add there the name of the company that produces this product, if it's you or your client or your supplier. So add the name of the company and the name or a description of the product, just so we can have an idea of what this product is. We'll give you a few minutes to do so. Ideally, you would do so by using the round post-its that you see on the right-hand side, but I see everyone was really enthusiastic and already got started by using just regular square post-its, which is also fine. We'll be able to find back what was added today or what was previously there. So that's no issue. Just keep on adding. Of course, it's a nice moment also for you to realize what's out there, what kind of ingredients and products are already out there, maybe some inspiration for you. We'll give you a few minutes, maybe 1 or 2 minutes now for you to do that before we go to the next step. I'll just stop sharing so everyone is probably just looking at their own screen anyway. So I'll see you back in a minute. All right, and I see we have some questions in the chat. Yeah, definitely. We'll share the link to this
Jullie-
mural after the
Jullie
meeting.
denken, meneer die wil lossen, wat poesen ik.
I think someone is not muted. That's a really good question, actually. We'll share this actually via a platform called Foodleap that we use here at Food Valley together with all our partners. And that's a platform where we'll set up a community specifically for this initiative, and you'll get access to it after the checkpoints meeting of March 5th. But more information about this later. In case you would need access to this mural before 5th of March, of course, just reach out. And Manon, I see you had a point about your ingredient. Definitely. Oh, and I see Jorien already replied to you. We'll take care of that. Thanks. Yeah. I hope everyone had time to enter their ingredients and products. With that, we can now also move towards step 2. That's a bit different. So that's, as Caroline already presented, that's a step where we ask the participants in November to vote on the products or product types actually that they found most relevant to develop a reference for, an upcycled reference for. And on the left-hand side, you see a first voting round that we had based strictly on what product type seems most interesting to you. You can see the ranking there, or the results with the pink dots or rounds top left of this voting round. And then we had a second voting round also as explained by Caroline, specifically where participants were indicating what product type from the top 5 of the first voting round would be would have the most upcycling potential in terms of share of the recipe that could be that would come from an upcycled source, or in terms of sales volume. Here, what we'd like you to do is to take the post-its on the right-hand side that you see here, the green, red, and blue post-its, to add your comments or thoughts around this ranking that you see here. So take a green post-it if you want to add something to explain why you would specifically agree on the ranking that you see here. Take a red one if you actually disagree with the ranking for one reason or another. Just type that reason in the post-it. And take a blue post-it if you have a somewhat neutral addition to this ranking. And just place your post-it. Yeah, I see already someone doing it. Perfect. Just place your post-it next to the specific element that this post-it relates to, of course. That's also where you see most space on the last 2 columns. I think that's probably where you can add the most comments. So let's focus maybe on the last 2 columns, so the upcycling potential and the sales volume potential. Of course, feel free to, add any relevant notes also in the product types in the first column. Again, we'll take a few minutes for that. If there's any question, use the chat or raise your hand. That's also possible. Really curious to see what comes out. Nice. I see some really relevant points being raised already. I like that someone mentioned that cookies and biscuits, that there's a daily consumption associated to this type of product. Yeah, elements of cost competitiveness, of course, are very relevant. Yeah. We'll take a few more seconds. I see quite some activity around that area still. No stress. Again, if anyone has a question, just raise your heads or hand, or write it in the comments, in the chat.
Based on all the additions that we received from your side, we will strengthen the outcomes of the consortium meetings in November. So it's the idea that you all represent an even bigger group than we had in November already, representing the bakery, confectionery, and snacks category. So it's super valuable to really understand how it relates to your role in the value chain and what do you recognize. So thank you for sharing that with us.
All right. I still see a few people typing in their post-its. No hurries, just take the time to finish your post-it. I'll already explain what we'll do in step 3, which is, yeah, actually nothing new. We'll take the same step here of using those green, red, and blue post-its again to explain why we would agree, disagree, or just have a thought to add to the results that you see there. There's quite some space between the product type and the notes from the consortium meeting session for you to drag and drop those post-its. Same idea, just write your thoughts there in the post-it. Yeah, so again, we have a few minutes to do that.
And you might notice that there will be less needs and ambitions for the number 4 and 5 product types that you see that we identified as priority. That's also the result of the selection that we discussed during the plenary part of the consortium meeting in November. It's not that there are maybe less value propositions relevant, so feel invited to think critically about what could be added there, or for those that really have a lot of value propositions, which is maybe more relevant than another point that is made there. That's also super valuable of this round of feedback, with your insights being added to the current overview.
Nice. I see already quite some green post-its, so you generally seem to agree on the different elements that were mentioned in November. I see indeed a good point, a blue post-it, adding that texture is key. Feel free to add some more. And again, if you have any question, if anything is unclear about what we came up with in November, please just raise your hand, unmute, ask a question, or place your question in the chat.
It's also interesting to see that some maybe more value chain related propositions are added. That's an enrichment actually of the value proposition examples that we gave. For example, the food safety standards and reporting standards. It's a conditional aspect which is really important. So we will take that in consideration for phase 2 as well. The value propositions that we listed were mainly focused on how the products were received by market players, off-takers. So indeed, everything that is important to add is welcome there.
There's another question in the chat about what would shrinkflation stand for?
Yes, good question. Shrinkflation was mentioned as an risk, and the definition of shrinkflation is that you actually are replacing current ingredients that are often also associated with costly ingredients for cheaper ingredients without communicating that to the end consumer. So an example which is often mentioned there is, for example, bringing down the percentage of meat in a product which is containing meat, for example, a pizza or a quiche or whatever, without telling it to the consumer. And there were more of those type of examples also related to the upcycling strategies that we discussed, like if you then are replacing a costly ingredient, for example, beef or eggs or whatever, or cacao, how do you deal with transparency about the price in relation to the consumer? Be careful. That was a remark being made by various actors, not only from the retail perspective, but even from the supplier's perspective, who already received that sometimes as an point of feedback. Thank you for asking.
Mm-hmm.
And it's good to note that there are always other stakeholders that can be consultant for that. So for example, the consumer authority is a kind of stakeholder that also Food Valley is familiar with. We have good contacts there. So in case those type of risks would be identified, this would be typically something that we would, also share with that type of more supporting stakeholders around initiatives like this one.
And then we have someone who placed a blue post-it with a question, actually, which asked, how come supply chain reliability is relevant only to this category? Because we see that one being mentioned for the cookies and biscuits category, and then not any further below. I think that was a comment that was specifically relating to the cocoa content in cookies and biscuits that you can often find back in there. Or in that product type, rather than in other product types. like resin rolls, savory bakes usually do not contain any cocoa, and I think that supply chain reliability was very relevant for this type of ingredient. Of course, it's a relevant aspect for any type of product that is mentioned there, but specifically for products containing cocoa, which suffers from this supply chain disruption.
Thanks for
I also see that Marilia raised her hand. Yes, go ahead.
yeah, so I was the one making that comment, so thanks for for replying to that.
Sure.
So these kind of explanations, will they be described somewhere in report coming together with these notes? Because like we will get this summary, right? But will there be somewhere the explanation about this?
Yeah, we will add it, I think, based on this meeting. It's clear that we need to put some definitions here and there. So
Yeah, that would be
yeah,
great.
we will think
Thanks.
about where to incorporate that. Thank you.
Yeah, excellent.
So looking at the time and looking at all the nice post-its that have already been placed in step 3, I think it's time to move to step 4, where we'll have a voting activity. Of course, feel free to finish your post-it in step 3 if you're still there, but I'll already take the time to explain what we'll do here in step 4. And the idea is basically to indicate which of the conventional ingredient types, which you see here with the blue post-its, so cereals and grains, sugar and sweeteners, fats and oils, so that type of ingredients have been listed as the main ingredients that are in the different product types that you see on the left, so cookies and biscuits, health bar, and savory bakes. And there we wanted to hear from you which two ingredients from the ones that are listed here. So you'll have 2 votes. Which two do you find most relevant to source in an upcycled form? Can be for different reasons. And yeah, I see my colleague already started the voting. That's great. So you have 2 votes. You're welcome to place them both on the same ingredient type if you think there's really a priority, or just to spread them across 2 different ingredients.
Please take into consideration the needs and ambitions that we were looking for in step 3. So if you think for the conventional cookie, there are specific needs in relation to availability of a specific raw material or an improved healthiness or any other argument to change something about the current recipe, literally, please then prioritize that ingredient cluster from the perspective of the conventional product, because we will look at the different value propositions later on that upcycling could be an answer to or a mean to an end.
So indeed, good to zoom out before you vote. Maybe have a look at step 3 again, what was mentioned for cookies and biscuits, and based on that, make an informed decision in your voting. Sebastian is asking, how do you vote? I think on your screen, you should see that voting window popping up. I guess that's not the case if you're asking. And then you just click on the, then once you have that window popping up, you just click on the ingredient types that you think are most relevant? So I see quite some people are still voting. If you could make a decision within the next few seconds, let's say, because we're running out of time there. So we'll, yeah, also just end the voting session, I think, in a few seconds, maybe 10 seconds, let's say. Time to make a decision.
I will end the voting.
Nice. So the voting has been ended, and we now see on our screen the voting results. So cereals and grains as the most relevant ingredient to source in its upcycled form. I guess, yeah, brewer spent grain has a big role to play there. But then also the sugars and sweeteners and the salt, seasonings, and aromas category are also really relevant. Sorry. And then the fats and oils, specialty ingredients. Sorry, what we mean with that is actually the cacao, the teas, the coffees, vanilla, those kind of ingredients. And then the fruits and veggies, a bit less relevant. Thanks for that. We'll jump to the next product type. There again, amazing. Thanks. Jorien already started the voting session. Same idea, just click on the ingredient types that you find most relevant for the health bar type of product. Again, if we just take a look at step 3, we had their taste with namely flavor enhancement that were mentioned, health benefits, clean label, and price competitiveness. Of course, the trade-off between taste and health benefits that you can sometimes see depends on the type of bar that you'd create, but here for a health bar, I guess the focus is specifically on the health benefits. So good to take that into account when deciding for the ingredient type that you find most relevant to replace with an upcycled ingredient. All right. I hope everyone had time to make a decision. We'll end the voting right here. And we see the fibers as a really relevant ingredient type, as well as the proteins. Guess that relates to the type of bar that we're looking at here. And then the fats and oils, cereals and grains, a bit less relevant here, and the specialty ingredients again. And with that, we'll jump to the last product type. Again, here, having a quick voting session, looking at the time, will take a bit less time for that one. Same idea, just click on the ingredient time that you find most relevant. Again, looking at step 3, for the savory bakes, well, the salt reduction was really relevant for in terms of health benefits. And yeah, that goes hand in hand also with a fiber and protein increase. Yeah. Some mentioned that gluten-free would be relevant. Also reducing the amount of meat or dairy in those type of products, namely for the environmental impact that they come with. Yeah. Basically the idea, summarizing a bit, is a bit less meat, a bit less dairy, a bit more fibers, proteins, a bit less salt. Yeah, so good to take that into account when choosing for your most relevant ingredient. And I'd say we'll end this in a few seconds, maybe 5. Time to make a decision again, last time. All right. Great. Thanks, Jorien. And there, well, we see that meat is a relevant ingredient to source in an upcycled form, which can be plant-based as well, of course, namely looking at the fiber content. Cereals and grains, again, spent grain, I guess, or I mean, other options, of course, as well. Eggs and dairy, also some really nice upcycled options that we actually saw in our in the matrices earlier on. So there's definitely some ways to make this happen. Yeah, thanks a lot for sharing or for indicating your votes in this part. On the right-hand side, you can see also that my colleague Jorien did an amazing work at adding already all kinds of ingredients that were added in step 1. Here in this step where we look at what kind of upcycled ingredients can be actually used to replace those conventional ingredients. So that's for you to have a look. In the meantime, I'll give the word back to my colleague for a quick closing of this meeting. Thanks.
Thank you, Miriam and Jorien. We're ready to close. Last points to mention is that we're really happy to have your validation to also provide input for phase 2, because in phase 2 we will start to measure what the difference actually is based on the upcycling strategies. And we all will invite you for the checkpoint meeting, which is the 5th of March. It will be an online meeting again. And we would like to update you about how the preparations for phase 2 will take shape and how you can be involved also further on within this initiative. Thank you so much for now for your participation. We will indeed keep the mural open for you if you still would like to add some things and share this Food Leap community area after the 5th of March with you. Thank you, and hope to see you soon in a new meeting, a new update around the UPcycled4Food initiative. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.